Hello there, it's Alana Tucky, and I'm here to give you one of the shortest lectures in the entire Math 133 course, which is Assessing Normality. So you saw through Chapter 7, it's really important if we know some variable, some random variable is normally distributed. Because if you know that it's normally distributed, you get to use normal CDF and inverse norm and all that good stuff. And normal CDF and inverse norm are really powerful tools, but we can only use them if the data is normal. So then the question becomes, well, how can we tell if our data is normal or not? And the answers for that is that we draw a plot, namely a normal probability plot. And in a normal probability plot, you're looking basically at the z-scores. And it doesn't really matter to us too much in this course what they are. But you're going to look at the plot and you're going to see whether the data in the plot are approximately linear. If they are linear, then your data is normally distributed. That's it. So for example, we look at this data right here, these data, sorry, and we have this lovely plot. Now I like drawing them in Minitab in particular because Minitab draws these boundary lines, which we'll talk about more where those come from in Chapter 9, but there's something called a confidence interval. So we have this little confidence interval lines right here, these kind of fences. And if any of your dots are outside that fence, we consider that data to not be normal with no outliers. So you look at this data, these data, and you say, yeah, this is normal because because all the dots are between the boundary lines. And there you go. That's all there is to it. Okay. Now remember, we're doing this because we're going to start seeing these pictures all over the place in the notes and in the book, and etc. And it's because we need to know data is normal before we can do anything from Chapter 8 and beyond. Once you hit Chapter 15, which is actually not in the scope of our course, there are ways to deal with things that are not normal, but they're tricky, and we are not covering them in this basic course. All right, so let's look at the next one. Oh, look, we got points outside the boundaries, so this is not normal because there are points outside the boundaries. Done. The end. That's all there is to it. The only other thing we can do to you is make you graph it yourself. So let me show you how to do that with the calculator. So I have this data right here, and I am going to go to my calculator, clear. All right, so I'm going to go stat edit just for starters. I figure I might as well put this data in. I'll put it in L1, these data in. I keep calling it this, but it's these. All right, what was my, you know what, let me do it this way. My lowest number was 26. Okay, so 26, 34. Okay, so there are the numbers in. Now we want to go to, this is going to be a little weird for you, stat plot. See stat plot? It's plotting stuff that you entered in the statistics menu. So make second y equals. And I'm going to choose plot number 1. Right now it's doing a scatter plot, which I do not want. I want the last plot in there. So I'm going to go to the right, to the far right. This is true even on the older calculators. You just keep pressing right. It'll actually look like 2 rows in the older calculators, but you press the right arrow nevertheless. Go over to the far right one and press enter. It'll look like a climbing line or something. Sort of like that yodeler on The Price is Right, up, 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 up. Then you say my data was an L1. I'm going to use X as my data axis. Mark as blue, mark as a little X dot. And if you're lucky enough to have a color calculator, you can pick different colors with the right and the left arrow. But I'm going to stick with blue. And then you press, let me go to y equals and make sure. Oh, see, I had some garbage in there, so clear that out. So when I press just plain y equals, I clear out my old equations. And you see up there how it's plot 1? That's dark. That means your scatter plot, stat plot thing is on. Although this won't be a scatter plot. This will be a probability plot. And then we press zoom, and we want number 9. See number 9? Zoom stat. Which even if you can't see it, the older screens don't show as much on a screen, but it'll still be there. Zoom stat. Press 9. So go down to it. There you go. Zoom stat. Enter. And there it is. Ta-da! It's the same. And now an older screen, it'll look like that. This is where I got that picture from. So it'll look like that on an older screen. My new screen, I've got some grid lines in there for whatever reason. Alrighty. So when you look at that, Now, the bad thing about the calculator is that it doesn't give you the boundary lines. So you're just kind of looking at it with your eyeballs and kind of going, that looks pretty normal. Like you can imagine kind of a line coming close, like a pretty good linear regression line coming close to all those points. So you'd say normal because the dots appear to form a line. Line-ish. Let me put this more or less. That's all there is to it. We're done with 7.3 and you've learned how to use the calculator to do it. I hope that was enjoyable. See you here for more videos.